Square 1. Returning to life in competitive running after my devastating stroke by Dirk Vlieks. Introduction. I loved triathlon because I loved pushing boundaries. I felt there was no better way to test myself. Once I had my first taste, I knew immediately that triathlon was the ideal complement to what drove me, the perfect sport with the perfect blend of exertion and adrenaline and discipline. I thought it was the ultimate challenge, the most demanding thing I would ever face. I was wrong. In a lifetime of looking for challenges, I learned quickly there were a few I'd have preferred not to face. Learning to walk again at age 34 was harder. So was learning to eat and speak again. Those were just a bit more challenging than anything thrown at me by an Ironman. But maybe everything I had done before the event, the mid-race stroke in 2006 that sent me to the edge of the precipice, where my life hung tenuously by the thinnest of threads, had prepared me for what lay ahead. That day in Hawaii, I was transformed in a few brief moments from athlete to helpless infant, from the lead group of cyclists to an intensive care unit where doctors felt certain I would not make it, from trying to qualify for the big race to simply staying alive. Maybe triathlon saved me. If you've never thought of attempting to swim, then bike, then run without interruption over any distance, your first question is obvious. Why? If you ramp up the distances, Ironman distances, between 70 and 140 miles for a day's outing, your next question will be, are you out of your mind? For me, my first triathlon was an irresistible siren song. Once I heard it, I couldn't get it out of my mind, and nothing in my life was ever the same again. I don't believe in ostentation or showing off. These races are difficult for everyone, plain and simple. In many ways, they are ordeals to be finished, not events to be savored. But in other ways, they are celebrations of your physical strength and mental tenacity. That's the point, and that's why tens of thousands of athletes, men and women of all ages, take them on every year. Finish an iron distance triathlon, and you are on top of the world, exhausted, elated, and ready for anything that life will throw at you in the real world. An oft-quoted saying among competitors is, triathlon doesn't build character, it reveals it. Read what a few others have said about triathlons, and you'll get the idea. Mark Allen, a 6-time Ironman world champion, said this about the Ironman, the competition that started this whole thing. Until you face your fears, you don't move to the other side, where you find the power. John Collins, known as the father of Ironman, put it this way: the pain is temporary, the memories will last the rest of your life. Add what 2-time Ironman world champion Chris McCormick said about it. You don't play triathlon. You play soccer. It's fun. You play baseball. Triathlon is work that can leave you crumpled in a heap, puking by the roadside. It's the physical brutality of climbing Mount Everest without the great view from the top of the world. What kind of person keeps coming back for more of that? I kept coming back. I loved it, and still do. There's the elation at the finish, of course. But there's also the growing confidence as you train, the self-assurance that comes with the discipline you need, the friends you train with, the common bonds, pushing your limits, knowing yourself. The list is long. The idea for Ironman started in 1977 with a friendly argument in Hawaii between swimmers and runners over who was fitter, a pretty standard dispute that's been around probably for as long as people have been swimming and running. That's when John Collins, a U.S. Navy commander, upped the stakes, pointing out that Sports Illustrated had asserted that Belgian cyclist Eddy Merckx was perhaps the fittest athlete around. Collins tossed in that maybe cyclists are fitter than either swimmers or runners. And so the seed was planted, and it quickly grew into what would be called the Ironman, a 2.4-mile ocean swim followed by a 112-mile bike ride topped off by a marathon, 26.2 miles of final torture. 15 men started the first Ironman on February 18, 1978. 12 finished, and nothing has been the same since. The Sports Illustrated article following the 1979 race started the buzz building, but probably nothing did more to burn the image of what the race can do to competitors, and to raise interest in it worldwide, than Julie Moss's 1982 finish, where a national audience watching ABC's Wide World of Sports saw her collapse so tortuously close to the finish and struggle to hold her lead. Less than 10 yards from the line, she collapsed for the final time. As Moss lay writhing in the darkness, she was passed by Kathleen McCartney, who was unaware she had won the race. Moss became the poster child for the Ironman, an indelible symbol of everything it took. Her finish did more to put Ironman on the map than anything else. I was 10 years old when Julie Moss brought Ironman into the public consciousness. It would take me a while to get to the finish line in Hawaii, but eventually I would. I've always enjoyed moving and competing, and in my peripatetic early childhood, with family hopping from Ohio to Canada and around Europe every 2 or 3 years, sports gave me a way to focus. At first, in Europe, it was skiing, but when we moved back to the States when I was 10, skiing took a back seat to tennis, which consumed me all through high school and on to college, where I played Division I at St. Mary's College in Moraga, California. A challenge from my older brother, Olaf, had sent me to the courts, motivated me. He was a good player, and he turned to me the summer before I hit 6th grade and said I'd never make the high school varsity team as a freshman. That was the only fuel I needed. I made the varsity team as a freshman and didn't look back. I loved everything about tennis. I even took it a step further after college and began playing professionally in some international tournaments. But the slashing back and forth of years of tennis took its toll on my knees fairly early. A year after I graduated from St. Mary's in 1996, after playing in a tournament in Brazil, my knees were shot, and I came back home for some rehab work. Find something to do where you go straight, a physical therapist told me. And so the story begins. Enter triathlon. I had found another passion. I had never thought of myself as an elite athlete. I was simply wired to compete, able to relish the long hours of training, to actually look forward to them. It takes a lot of hours to get to the finish line of an Ironman. I spent quite a few of those hours with guys who were Olympic and world-class competitors, and their fervor for the sport wore off on me. I saw what it took. Basically, a triathlon goes something like this, no matter what the distance. You enter the swim leg, always the first segment, in a pack. No matter how much you try to avoid it, you'll be kicked or elbowed, unintentionally for the most part. There's always a lot of adrenaline pumping, but soon people pick their lines and the pack spreads out. You begin swimming, find your rhythm, mindful of breathing and stroke and cadence, conscious you will be pushing yourself for the rest of the day, but staying below the line where you will burn out too early. It's a long race and a delicate balance. That's when I would tell myself one more time, kick it in and pass that guy. Usually I would. My stroke, my ultimate challenge, would be yet another chance to kick it in. In a way, that helped.